Okay, welcome everyone. This is Emily with Gem Science, and I have with me here Larry Briggs. Larry is a leadership coach and author of Sticky Leadership. Since founding Briggs Consulting, the original V2A leadership company in 1989, Larry has coached and trained hundreds of high-performing CEOs, executive teams, and entrepreneurs representing small to medium-sized businesses throughout the U.S. Welcome, Larry. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So can you tell us just a little bit more about you and who you are and who you typically help?
Yeah, for the last almost 30 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs who desperately often want to scale, grow their business, and they've become stuck in one way or another. And so I help them through that dilemma. And, I've worked with a variety of different kind of companies, all the way from service companies, financial companies, medical firms, and manufacturers. And I work in the leadership space.
Awesome. So I'm assuming that you find that kind of across the board, no matter what industry or sector you're working with, a lot of the problems tend to be the same.
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all business. It's not totally formulaic, but sticky leadership and V2A stands for vision to action. I do have a leadership model that I use because leadership can be very confusing, and part of what I need to do is to help people understand what the heck leadership is and distinguish it from management. So when I'm working with clients, they're either stuck, maybe the company is just going bonkers. They are more successful than they are prepared for. So any of those problems, and there's generally two things that will block an entrepreneur from being able to grow their business. One is lack of systems and procedures, and the other is one's leadership ability. And systems and procedures you can learn from other successful businesses. There's great value in professional associations where you can hang out with other business people running the same business as you have. If you have a franchise or a license with someone, they've probably given you the recipe, the cookbook for how to run the business. And it generally just takes self-discipline and the discipline of your employees, if you have them, to follow the recipe, follow the process, the procedure. And for many entrepreneurs, this is difficult because many are highly creative and they hate routine. It's boring, but a certain part of successful business is boring. Just do the same right things over and over again. The other area, leadership ability, it's more tricky, more difficult, mainly because it's lesser understood. And in business, this is more custom tailored. So what I do when I work with entrepreneurs, when I come in to help them in their leadership, is I do two things. First, I help them to understand their leadership abilities that they already have. And generally, they don't recognize these, and I help them see them. And obviously, there's weaknesses and issues we can address. So I have some assessments, and in the conversations I have, we surface these. The second thing I do is I help them see their leadership in action. I help them recognize when they're leading versus when they're managing. And because unlike, let's say, a coach on a football team or a basketball court, I'm not standing at the sidelines watching people every day. We have conversations where they presence for me a situation or something they were dealing with, and they replay kind of how it went, and then we talk about and isolate the leadership part of that. So that's really what my expertise is.
So your expertise is in helping people solve specifically their leadership woes in their business. What are some of the mistakes that you see people making when they come to you? I'm assuming they're coming to you with this frustration, this leadership problem. They've already tried some things. What are some things you see people try that don't typically get them in?
Yeah, there's a myriad of mistakes that can be made. And generally the mistakes show up like people getting upset and quitting, or people not following what the directives are that the leader's providing, and that, cascades into a ripple effect. So the mistakes can be many, but they oftentimes harken back, or they relate back to a lack of self-awareness, a lack of clarity on the part of the leader in what they're doing that's creating the results. Oftentimes, the unskillful leader will blame others rather than themselves for what's going on, and that just amps up and will actually make the problems bigger than they originally were. There are serious leadership problems in businesses, but they're easier to solve than we might think once we start to understand our agency in the process, how we cause or remedy a leadership issue. And so that's a lot of where I work. And again, it varies case by case, but it gets down, we work on root causes, and then I give people skills and techniques around that.
Okay, so let's say I am that frustrated small business owner. I come to you, I'm like, Larry, I'm just hitting my head against a wall. My employees will not do what I say. I can't understand why they won't just get on board. So I'm in that blaming mode that you just said. What is one tip that you could give the small business owner who's feeling frustrated and stuck in their leadership skills and just feels like they're kind of turning their wheels?
Sure. A good place to start is really to learn self-coaching questions. So people will say, after I've worked with them for a while, Larry, you're in my head. I can hear your voice. And that's an indicator that we're having some success. So one of the ways I try to get them thinking, get in their head, as they say, is to ask a self-coaching question, which is, how am I showing up right now? How am I being perceived? How are my people or this other person viewing me? And once we recognize that, I may be showing up like a jerk, smartest guy in the room. I'm the powerful person, you're not. We're going to get my way, not your way. It's not going to go anywhere good from a leadership standpoint. You can always pull out a club or a carrot. It's kind of a management solution to a business issue. There may be reason for that, but generally I coach people, start with leadership first. And leadership is about influence, where management is about control. You need both of them. But start with, what is the influence I'm having in this current circumstance? And am I in self-control sufficiently to hopefully have a positive outcome?
Okay, awesome. And you had mentioned something before about a specific tactic of showing up with humility. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, we were talking earlier. It's a bit of a paradox, actually. When I'm working with an entrepreneur, a leader for a while, and once they find the confidence and the courage to demonstrate humility in the face of a challenging situation, maybe a situation where they've not had success in the past, if they will actually verbalize their self-awareness in the moment, like, I think I'm being a bit of a jerk right now, or you probably think I'm trying to get my own way in this, and I think I probably am, and they self-reveal in a humble way, it changes everything. And to do that doesn't mean you have to give up what you think's right, but you need to open up an avenue of dialogue that could result in some sort of a negotiation, win-win situation, there's all kinds of books out there about how to get to yes and how to get win-win and that, and those techniques are useful. But if they're done with an attitude that is unspoken, but it's clearly present, it's not going to work very well.
Yeah. So as far as growing in leadership skills, some of the big things that I'm hearing from you are, number one, start with yourself, start with self-awareness.
Right.
Pause in a situation where you feel like you're not getting somewhere with someone and see how you are showing up. And then challenge yourself to figure out a way how to show up with humility, and be very honest and very forthright about what it is that you're bringing to the table.
Exactly. And as you know, we all can imagine, it's easy to say and hard to do in the moment. In my book, Sticky Leadership, I talk about 3 phases of leadership, and we can't get to the next phase until we have some fundamental skills around the first. So first phase is self-leadership, which is kind of what we've been talking about. Can I lead my own behavior, my own thinking, and the way I show up sufficiently that I will be respected and listened to? The next thing is really situational leadership, and that is, how do I lead in the circumstances? How do I, as a leader, take on whatever the problem is? I don't have enough clients, cash flow's horrible, people are not showing up on time, whatever the situation is. And once we've demonstrated that we can lead in a situation, it's fascinating because people will go, how did you just do that, Emily? I'm interested. So people will show up, and we have the opportunity actually to coach and lead them. And a lot of leadership books start right off with, how do you get people to do what you want? Mm-hmm. And they're often very manipulative and formulaic, and they don't work very well.
Yeah.
So until I can model that I can lead myself, I can lead in any circumstance or situation, doesn't mean I have to be perfect, but I have to be engaged, then people will present themselves to learn from you leadership, and you can truly lead them.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. Larry, this has been great. If people want to learn a little bit more about you or get in touch with you, obviously they can look into your Sticky Leadership. How else can they find out about you if they are wanting to get more help with
my website is V, the letter V is in vision, the number 2, and A is in action. So vision action is my leadership model. So if you go to v2a.com, you can find my website. My email is Larry, Larry, at v2a.com. And if anyone will send me an email, let me know they heard this message today, I'll give them a free self-assessment tool that I use called the Core Values Index. And it's my favorite starting point in creating self-awareness. So I'll actually give you one of those free if you'll email me, and you can get started.
Wonderful, Larry. That's so generous of you. We will put a link to your website below as well. And thank you so much for your time today.